Unbeatable bosses are a staple in role-playing games, used to showcase a new threat in the story, either because the player isn't strong enough to fight them yet, or because the boss obtained a new power that transcends anything we've seen before. Mega Man games are no different, although the story of how two particular fights became unwinnable confused players back when their games came out, and still do even now. Today, we'll go over who these bosses are, how they became unbeatable, and recommendations for any game developers who plan to make bosses like them in the future. In the Battle Network series alone, there are 4 unbeatable bosses. The first fight against Electman in Mega Man Battle Network 1, the first fight against Bass in Mega Man Battle Network 3, the first fight against Shademan in Mega Man Battle Network 4, and the first encounter against the Count in Mega Man Battle Network 6. Its sequel series, Mega Man Star Force, also has 3 unwinnable fights. One against the Jammer mini-boss in Mega Man Star Force 1, another against Rogue in Mega Man Star Force 2, and a final one against Acid Ace in Mega Man Star Force 3. Out of the 7 characters on screen, only one of them became unbeatable by accident. The bosses we're talking about are completely optional as well, and most casual players were probably unaware they even existed. The bosses in question are Acid Ace and Dread Joker. These two are indirectly the namesake for their debut games, Mega Man Star Force 3, Black Ace, and Red Joker. Again, these bosses weren't unbeatable in the story. Well, Acid Ace was for one fight, but that was intentional, and that particular fight was against Acid Ace B, which is an upgraded version of Acid Ace. The unbeatable versions of these bosses are Acid Ace BB and Dread Joker RR. If you've never heard of them, don't be surprised, because that's exactly why they're unbeatable. They were nearly impossible to encounter, and believe it or not, how these bosses became unbeatable wasn't due to a programming error. Rather, it was due to an error in human psychology. These two were only fightable when connecting to the internet and fighting real players. After 20 battles, you'd have a 25% chance of fighting either one of them. The problem was that this game came out in 2008, back when online battles over Nintendo Wi-Fi connection were brand new and online gaming as a whole was still in its infancy. Game developers and players alike were still trying to figure out what worked and what didn't, and unfortunately this system was one that didn't. When playing against real people, especially with strangers online, you're likely going to come across people who are, and there's really no other way to say it, sore losers. Instead of taking the loss and letting it appear on the record, they'd rather disconnect from the match entirely. In most modern games, disconnecting punishes the player who disconnected. In this game, it punished both players. Counter for the special match against Acid Ace and Dread Joker counted up every time you finished a battle, win or lose. But if you disconnected, that counter resets. You can see where this is going. Yes, if your opponent disconnected from the game, your counter would be reset as well as theirs. And, in a real twist of fate, the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection wasn't really known for its stability, which meant you were more likely to disconnect than not, even if you had high-speed internet. Apparently, Capcom even made a patent for this Wi-Fi encounter system, but just never went through with it. And unfortunately, you weren't able to call a friend and battle online that way. It had to be with online random opponents. This decision was likely due to how the battles functioned, because it was a random chance of encountering a boss instead of a player. Although it'd be pretty funny if you tried to fight one of your friends and Acid Ace just swooped in and knocked him to the side. If you were lucky enough to get these bosses on your screen, you still had to beat them, and they were tough. I never fought them myself, but from watching videos on YouTube, they're fast, hit hard, and truly test your skills. On top of that, you also had to deal with Wi-Fi lag, because this fight was still taking place on an online server. And because there was only a 25% chance of seeing them, you could reach your 21st battle and not see them at all. If that happened, the counter also reset, and you had to fight your 20 fights again. If you had bad luck, you could go hundreds of battles without seeing them once. As a result, a third boss also became unbeatable, Crimson Dragon Sigma. If you somehow managed to encounter, fight, and win against either Acid Ace BB or Dread Joker RR, you would obtain the AJ title mark. By pressing a special command on the title screen using this mark, you would be able to encounter Crimson Dragon Sigma. Thankfully, this encounter was an in-game fight and not online, so once you defeated Acid Ace or Dread Joker online, you never had to go online ever again. Now, how would we fix the problem? If this game was made in modern times, you can be sure that you wouldn't get punished if your opponent disconnected. That's almost a given, and I'm sure the system will be changed if it's implemented when the Mega Man Star Force Legacy Collection comes out. Outside of that, requiring 20 battles in a row is tedious, and considering how busy everyone is nowadays, it's just not realistic. Instead of 20 consecutive battles, Another change could just be to require 20 wins. Not in a row, just 20 wins overall. Then if you connect online, you would have a 25% chance of encountering the boss. It could even have its own separate record on the side with a warning screen and everything. Maybe once you fight them, the counter resets, but until you fight them, you still have a 25% chance. This final example is one that I would personally use if I was a game developer who wanted to make a secret boss like this. Have the bosses require an in-game item that's hard to get, let's just call it an AJ token, and after collecting a lot of them, let's say 100, you can go to a special screen to redeem the fight. Win or lose, we have to pay 100 tokens to fight them again. Here's where things can get interesting. Say that AJ tokens are obtainable in-game, but they're scarce and really rare mystery data drops, and you'd only get 1 or 2 at a time. Enter online battles. Here, after you finish a battle against a real player, you get way more AJ tokens than you would in-game. Maybe 3 if you lose and 10 if you win. The numbers don't matter. Point is, online battles will be the best way to collect these items, and this still maintains the spirit of the original method. The MegaMan Battle Network Legacy Collection does something similar for crossover points, although they're only obtainable through ranked battles, so it's not too far-fetched. This suggestion also has the additional benefit of making these bosses fightable even after the online servers get shut down. I mention this because as of May 2014, the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection is no longer available, and anyone who wants to attempt a battle against Acid Ace BB or Dread Joker RR can no longer do so. This means they are now truly unbeatable, and all of their secrets are lost to time. Still, I'm looking forward to fighting them when the Star Force Legacy Collection comes out. If you were lucky enough to fight these bosses back then, feel free to tell your story in the comments, like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.